Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Andrew.
Rachel.
Together, we're Picture the Scene podcast. We're a true crime podcast aiming to put you, the listener, at the scene of the crime. Now, we are a true crime podcast, so listener caution is always advised. So here we are, Rachel. Another day and another episode. How have you been?
I've been really good, thanks, Andrew. I am looking forward to the days getting longer and brighter, definitely. How about you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm same as you. Seems like it's been raining in Ireland every day for the last 5 years, so I'm looking forward to the rain stopping and yeah, just
Roll on
um
spring.
roll and spring. And I also just need to say we had a couple of people say that maybe we chatted for a little bit too long before the episode, before the content on the last episode. I think that's just because we were so happy to be seeing each other again, wasn't it? But we'll make sure a little bit more brief this time. Well,
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I think there was the air of excitement last time. So yeah, let's keep it short and sweet this time and give everyone what they want to hear, which is the detail of the true crime story we are sharing today.
yes. Yes, I'll keep this in, but I just realised I wrote good in response to you. I don't know why, because you could have said something. You could have said something terrible, but yeah,
Yeah,
I do want to put a
I've actually been really suffering with like the Blues of the football team that I support, not performing very well. Yes, good, Rach, good.
that would be good though. Liverpool not performing, but I'm
There
not going
was
to go
no
into it
need to
because
name and shame. No need to name
we're
and
gonna we're,
shame.
we're gonna waffle. So let's not. We can leave it at Liverpool not being good. So I would like to put a call out again now to everyone. If you like what we give you, please do leave a rating and review if possible. Follow us on social medias. Follow us on YouTube would be really helpful, and it'd be much appreciated. And today we've got a case that I found genuinely quite troubling to research. If I'm being honest with you. It touches on some really sensitive territory, false allegations of sexual assault, their impact on victims, and questions around credibility in the justice system that are, well, they're just a little bit troubling, aren't they, Rach?
Yeah, to say the least, actually. And I do feel like I fully promote and I fully back our justice system in the UK. I know that there are always parts of it that are concerning, especially when you get the cases, the ones that like have so many grey areas. But in this particular instance, it's so troubling, and I won't dive into why because I think the episodes that we record today will really give that view. So I won't spoil that. But yeah, in a sentence, correct.
So I definitely need to give a warning before we start. This episode discusses a rape allegation in detail. Now, the details are part of the understanding of what happened and why it matters, but I want to flag that up front. And
Yeah,
additionally, so I want to flag that up front.
yeah, and on that, like, and I appreciate you've said that, Andy, but just to give extra context, we are going to explain the allegations in quite detail. So the only reason we are going to do that is because of the situation. Should we just tell them up front, Andy? No. Yeah, you will come to understand why we go into detail, but ultimately, I just want to say that because what you'll get from most podcasts is, if there's a rape involved, that they'll just kind of use that word, not go into detail, and not put any context around it. The context is there for a reason and purpose today. So if this isn't for you, if that's a trigger for you, please do not hesitate to go look at our back catalogue, listen to another episode, because today,
Yes, and they should understand by the end of it why we've done it.
yeah,
And additionally, the case involves discussion of domestic abuse, mental health crisis, and suicidal ideation. So, listener caution if we ever say it, most definitely applies here.
Jesus, that is a whole host of warnings.
Indeed. Are you ready for this chunk of true crime rage?
Yeah, I'm saying that tentatively because I know what's ahead of us, but yeah, let's get in.
So, if it's safe for you to do so, I'd like you to relax, close your eyes, and picture the scene. We're going back to July 2023, specifically the 24th and 25th of July. We're in Loughborough, in Leicestershire, in the East Midlands, not far from Leicester itself. And on Monday, July the 24th, in 2023, it was quite cool for summer. The temperature had only reached about 62 degrees Fahrenheit, 17 degrees Celsius. The light rain showers fell intermittently throughout the day. It wasn't hot, and it wasn't a pleasant summer afternoon, and it was quite grey, if being honest with you. It was damp. It was a kind of day that feels a bit dreary and confining. And so we're going to be focusing in on a hotel in Loughborough, a functional place. It isn't luxurious, but standard. And it's a sort of accommodation you'd find in any town. Unremarkable, and to be honest, really quite forgettable.
I'm going to be
And honestly,
controversial here. Was it like a travel lodge? Is that
no, it
good?
wasn't a.
No, but is that a
Yes,
good, solid description?
yes,
Soz
yes,
Travel
definitely.
Lodge.
Think Alan Partridge type hotel. So on this particular grey July day is where one young woman's life was about to unravel in a way that would impact not only her, but three innocent people around her. So this is where our story begins, Rachel, with a family eviction, a mental health crisis, and a series of lies that would take months to unravel. So on the evening of July the 25th, 2023, police officers found a young woman in distress. She was distraught, and she'd left a suicide note, and her name was Chloe Marie May. Now, to understand how we got here, we need to go back 24 hours to the afternoon of July the 24th, because that's the day Chloe would later say that she was raped.
So let me paint you a picture of who Chloe really was in that moment of her life, because context matters, although it doesn't excuse. Chloe Maria May was 21 years old. Now, Chloe had a history of mental health struggles, diagnosed with mixed depressive and anxiety disorder since her school days. And a few weeks before this episode, just weeks, she had been an inpatient in a psychiatric hospital. She'd been experiencing a period of homelessness, and she was in a relationship with a man significantly older than her. At the time, he was 42 years old. That's twice her age. And according to a report that would later emerge, this relationship was abusive. It had lasted about 11 months. Chloe was also pregnant. Now, that's the piece of the puzzle that sits underneath everything that's about to unfold. The local authority, after her homelessness, had placed her and her partner in a hotel in Loughborough. This was supposed to be temporary accommodation whilst they figured out their longer-term housing plan. Her partner, and we're just going to call him that because his actions matter more than his identity here, he was causing trouble at the hotel. He was frequently aggressive, he was abusive to staff and to other residents, and he was vandalising the room that they had shared. On the evening of the 24th of July, after weeks of this disruption, the hotel management finally said enough's enough, and Chloe and her partner were told they had to leave. And here's where the domestic abuse dynamic becomes critical. According to Chloe's later account to probation officers and the court, her partner was furious at this decision. He refused to leave the hotel. He pressured Chloe. She would later say that he threatened her, saying he'd harm her if she didn't comply, to make false allegations of rape against people at the hotel, specifically against a female member of staff and two male residents. He wanted his revenge for this eviction. Chloe felt like she was trapped. She was pregnant, she was vulnerable, and so she smashed up the hotel room and went ahead and wrote a suicide note. On the morning of July 26th, police officers found her. She was distressed, and they were concerned for her safety. And as they began speaking to her, she started to tell them a story. She had been raped.
Already, Rach, like, you can't, it's so easy for us when we're looking at something or listening or watching, but how can we put ourselves in the shoes of someone who has ongoing mental health struggles, a partner who is horrible by the sounds of it, abusing her like mentally and physically, um, and plus she's also got like the hormones going in her for pregnancy, which is natural, so that will also be a mix in the situation. And then he's basically saying to her, "You're going to tell you that these people raped you because they want us out because of something we've actually done," which is smash the hotel room up. So
She's got so much going against her. Her age, she's young, she is impressionable, potentially naive. I don't know if her childhood was particularly difficult, but, we've already highlighted the fact that she's vulnerable, her mental health struggles, anxiety, depressive thoughts. And you're absolutely right. Pregnancy hormones, coupled in with all those other factors, you are going to be likely to feel backed up against the wall. Really difficult for us to relate with her in this moment. Everyone has decisions, let's make that clear, and everyone has authority over their decisions to a certain extent, but in this scenario, tough.
let me walk you through what Chloe told police. because the detail really is important here. It shows us what she was capable of fabricating, and it also shows us the impact that detailed false allegation has on the system and on the people accused.
And then, so I can probably now say that this is why we're going into the detail of the rape,
Yes,
because we've now highlighted false allegations. It was a story, this is why we're going into the detail. So, and just to be clear, now Andy's going to dive into that.
thank you, Rach. I appreciate that. So she gave what's called an ABE interview. Now, that's called an Achieving Best Evidence interview. That's what the police call it, and it's a video recording interview. You've probably seen it in TV show or films where they get the vulnerable victim in a room and they put them in a safe environment and they video record it. Just let them speak how they want to speak without pressuring them to get the best evidence out of them at the moment. And it's designed specifically for vulnerable witnesses.
And
And Chloe,
they're in rooms with like sofas, aren't they? And like,
yeah.
you know, being coffee facilities, it's kind of replicating a living room environment, isn't it? Instead of that cold interview room, which I guess most victims have to go into when they're officially recording their witness statement and things like that.
Yeah. And it would have been just with female officers as well. Chloe's ABE interview lasted 143 minutes. That's almost 2.5 hours long. I know, and in that interview, Chloe alleged that on the morning of July the 24th, mid-morning, she'd been forcibly pulled into a bedroom at the hotel by 3 people. A female member of staff, for legal and moral reasons, we can't name her, so let's call her C1, and 2 male residents, who we also can't name for the same reasons, so let's call them C2 and C3. So she said, after she was pulled into the room, the door was locked. When she asked what was happening, she was told that it didn't matter. She said that C1, the female member of staff, put a cloth in her mouth, pushed her face down onto the bed, and pushed her face into the pillow. She said that she was crying by now and that she was held down physically and couldn't breathe properly. She then said that C2 raped her anally. She described the pain. She said it seemed to go on forever. And here's where it gets even more elaborate, if that's not elaborate enough. She said that C1 told her that this was organized by people from Newhall, a person called Cheryl, and someone called Rico, and that they were doing this because of her partner, because her partner had some history with this Cheryl. She said that C1 had been promised a trip to Turkey and a facelift operation as a reward for participating.
What?
I wonder how, the only thing I'd think here is, I'm not sure this would be explained to her while she was being raped. And maybe that's a bit too much detail to go into.
And as well, like the level of detail that they're going into, those officers are like to try and unpack that as well. That's going to be hard for them to stomach, isn't it? Like the brutality of it. And then the reward of, oh, but by the way, we'll make sure that you get an all expenses paid trip to Turkey for a facelift. Like it just feels like madness. But I mean, I guess that these officers are trained to hear the most awful things. So that's like, yeah.
So she said that all 3 of them laughed at her while she cried as she was being raped. She said that she bled afterwards for days, and when she was medically examined later, there was a small amount of blood on her swab. She had bruises, though she said those weren't actually related to the attack. She described the ordeal ending, them releasing her, and then, most remarkably, her continuing to see these people the next day as if nothing had happened. She said things just carried on as normal. C1, the female, asked her to do some cleaning work, and she saw C3, one of the men, and she didn't tell her partner what had happened because she'd heard there was a £30,000 contract on him. Also, so a threat to his life that was organised by this Cheryl who was in Newhall, apparently. She said that she'd withdrawn sexually from her partner because of the trauma, and though he tried to have sexual intercourse with her, including anal intercourse, it made her feel sick. So this was a very
And this is where I'm really struggling to stomach this. Knowing now that we can say there's false allegations, that is something that so many people have to volunteer and deal with and overcome in life because, they have been through these situations in real life and it's just absolutely awful at that level of detail she's going into about her lie. Like, It's not fair for actual victims of this awful crime that she gets to, you know, portray herself as a victim here.
Because this was a detailed, elaborate, and very traumatic narrative. And it was 143 minutes long. Let's remember that. So, for 2.5 hours almost, she was detailing and going into this detail to the police. And they'd have had to listen to this, and they'd have felt empathy and sympathy for her and disgust of what was done to her. And it was all a lie.
Yeah. And I can only imagine that they would also be falling over themselves to make sure that she felt warm, safe, comfortable, and potentially the partner as well. He's got a, high risk contract on his head. Did you suggest as well, like, how do we make sure he's safe? These are resources that are being channeled to two horrible human beings that are fabricating and wasting valuable resources. So, on that, the Leicestershire police obviously took this allegation very seriously at the start. How could they not? It was an allegation essentially of gang rape, and it was an allegation against 3 people. And it required a full investigation. They searched the bedroom where the rape allegedly took place. This was in C2's room. They seized exhibits for forensic testing, and they identified the 3 people quite easily that Chloe had named. All 3 went on to be arrested. C1, the female member of staff, was arrested at home in the middle of the night. That is in front of her 16-year-old child. She was then held in police custody for 18 hours and 46 minutes. C2 was held for 11 hours and 9 minutes. He was required to give intimate samples, and C3 was held for 6 hours and 13 minutes. Each of our victims were completely terrified. Each of them a victim of this false allegation, even before the investigation properly began, because arrest, custody, and the humiliation and that fear, that is trauma itself.
I agree completely, Rach. And it's just like, and you imagine because like it or not, a lot of actual rapes come down to one person's voice against another person's voice. And so most people know this. And while it'd be great not to have to rely on that, like these men and this woman, imagine being a woman accused of being involved in participating in helping another woman become raped, and they would have known that, so they would, even though they knew they were not involved at all, they'd be sat there thinking, but what if? Like, what if this goes to trial and it ruins my life? And what if I go to prison for this?
What if my
Who's not going to
daughter,
believe a word?
who's just watched me be arrested, believes them?
Yeah,
What are people
exactly.
going to
It's
say
terrible.
at the school gate? What are the neighbours going to say? Like, all of this as well is, bear in mind, if you have committed a crime, you're looking over your shoulder all the time, thinking, or I imagine, I've never committed a crime, but I can only imagine that you are expecting a knock on the door. We talk about it all the time, like people that get away when crimes are unsolved. There is an element of, will they ever catch on to me? Will I ever be caught, found, put in prison? These people have not committed a crime. So when those police raided her house in the middle of the night, the genuine fear, because, this is all news to her. What have I been arrested for? What are you talking about, rape? Who are you talking about? How am I implicated? I was in work at the time. Yes, the allegation is that it happened whilst you were at work. Like, so, pardon my French, but what the fuck?
Yeah, and also, just like, it also shows you the fact that the police turned up in the middle of the night to the woman's house, showed that they fully believed Chloe at this time. So they were
Absolutely.
fully bought in.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'll just go through what became quite evident as they went through the police interviews. First of all, C2 had an alibi. He hadn't actually arrived at the hotel until 5:30 p.m. on July 24th. Now, this was confirmed by his partner and by CCTV footage. He had told police he didn't know Chloe or her partner very well at all. He'd only had one conversation with C3. He'd also described an incident where Chloe's partner had approached him in an intimidating manner on the night of the 24th of July, after the rape was supposed to have happened. And again, the next morning, the partner had pushed C2 in the throat and threatened to stamp on his head. He then made some comments about people who steal other people's girlfriends, but C2 had no idea what he was talking about. But it sounded like Chloe's partner at this point was clearly setting him up, or trying to provoke him into an attack on him. C3 told the police he wasn't at the hotel on July 24th. He was actually at his mother's house. He provided bus tickets proving that he'd caught the bus at 7:47 a.m. His mother confirmed the alibi too. He also had limited mobility at the time. Following an accident, he was actually on crutches. So the idea that he'd been involved in a violent sexual assault seemed increasingly implausible. And C1 told police she had indeed been working that day. She'd met Chloe and she'd given her access to rooms for cleaning. One of those rooms was the room where the rape allegedly took place. So C1 went on to explain that she'd previously tried to help Chloe's partner also get work and had offered Chloe the cleaning job as a way of helping the family. So on July 24th, mid-morning, the exact time of the alleged rape, C1 had been meeting a potential new member of staff and had actually been giving them a tour of the hotel. So that was between 10 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. And at 10:50 a.m., C1 had left the premises. She then spent the rest of the day away from the hotel and had returned in the evening. The next day, Chloe had told C1 she was too ill to work and therefore did not turn up for her cleaning duties. So,
Oh,
so just
carry
to
on, sorry.
unpack that, I just want to kind of say as well. So these interviews are going on over multiple hours. So the minimum amount of time that these people are interviewed was 6 hours, some up to 18 hours. All the while, the police can go and get evidence, bus tickets, CCTV, alibis. That takes time. So, like in those first interviews, obviously C1, C2, and C3 are all absolutely detailing their innocence, like protesting, this is not me, you've got the wrong person. But they are then held for hours after while the police have to go and back up the evidence that paints this picture that they are all innocent. And like, I can't imagine how awful that must have been for those 3 victims. Just sat there thinking, how have I been embroiled in this? Like, absolutely no clue what's happening. That must be scary.
Not only scary, also you got to think about what you said there, Rachel, which makes it compounds it really. Like the female member of staff that tried to help Chloe. She'd given her work to help them get some extra money. She'd tried to get the partner work. And so she'd actually gone like she was just someone who worked at the hotel. And Chloe and her partner were just 2 people who stayed at the hotel and treated it badly over a number of weeks, but she still tried to help them. And because I assume maybe she knew she was pregnant and she just wanted them to get ahead and make something. So she'd been accused. She's probably sat there thinking, but I've only helped Chloe. I've only ever helped her and tried the best. And yet I'm being accused of this.
That is so true. And I guess just to compound that, Chloe and her partner have targeted a woman who has tried to help them at the hotel. Obviously, they're not in their right minds to be concocting such an elaborate story as they have done to relay to police that's completely not true. But you would imagine in the process of that, they may have targeted an unlikable character at the hotel, maybe the hotel manager. Why have they gone for somebody that's been trying to help them throughout this process? The context of having somebody that wasn't perhaps so welcoming and nice at the hotel may have added weight to their horrible, awful story. And not that I want to encourage them and their lies, but it just doesn't quite make sense to me why they went after C1.
I think maybe it's just because they knew. Maybe they knew her name and what maybe they thought
Okay.
she was vulnerable or something. I don't know. I'm guessing here. I don't know. But
Yeah.
maybe they thought they saw a victim that would easily fold.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's no right or wrong for anyone that they would have targeted in this
Yeah.
situation, but it's just obscene to me that they've gone after one person that was extending their welcoming, warming hand to them and saying, "I'll help you as much as I can."
So then, here's something that became significant. D1 discovered that Chloe and her partner had damaged their room. There was blood on the bed, but that blood, we would later learn, it was in their room, not in C2's room, and the DNA evidence would reveal something crucial. And before I go on, don't forget DNA evidence, that's not turned around in a day, that's not turned around in a couple of days, that takes a while to get as well.
Absolutely, and even the forensics in that room would have taken days, wouldn't they? And
Yeah,
so, sorry, just to be clear, C1 was this. We're back to the day of the day after the crime now.
yes,
C1 is cleaning on her normal duties Chloe and her partner's room.
yes. and they discovered the blood. But yes, and so DNA testing now, because they still obviously C2's bedroom, as far as they was concerned, was a crime scene. So they DNA tested the pillowcases in the bedroom, the room where the rape was supposedly committed, and that showed only a DNA profile matching C2. DNA of Chloe was found in the pillowcases, and you have to remember she said that she had her face pressed into the pillow while she was crying.
Yeah,
So there would have
crying,
also
she
been
was gagged.
saliva. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's surely kind of the first element. Let's make sure that we nail, the DNA on the pillowcase of her because that will really put C2 and the victim in that real point.
So as the investigation continued, it became clearer and clearer that Chloe's account simply just did not hold up. CCTV footage supported the movements described by the three suspects. Alibis were provided and confirmed. The forensic evidence contradicted her narrative. So by September the 16th, 2023, and you have to remember this is September the 16th, and this was originally said this happened on the at the end of July. So you've gone through like a week in July, the whole of August, and 2 weeks in September, just over. But by September the 16th, 2023, the police brought the investigation to an end and it was recorded as no crime. So that wasn't like a quick thing. We're talking like, what's my maths like there? Like almost 8 weeks?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Even though the police told Chloe there was no crime and no evidence, and her statement was it was being contradicted with actual evidence, she didn't immediately accept this outcome. On November 2nd, 2023, some 3 months after the allegation, Chloe was arrested as a suspect. She was interviewed with a solicitor present, and she insisted that the allegation was true. She stood by her account. She claimed it had all been planned between the three suspects. She suggested that C1, as manager, had access to the CCTV and that the assault had taken place at the back of the hotel where there was no CCTV. And during that interview, C1's witness statement describing the impacts on her family of the false allegation, it was actually read out loud to Chloe. And Chloe's response was telling. Here's exactly what she said, and this is a quote. She should have thought about her children before she did what she did. So just let that sink in, everyone, please. After making it, sorry.
And I'm just gonna interject there that obviously we're talking about somebody that's vulnerable. I think we've already kind of set that scene, that stall out that we know that Chloe has troubles and has struggled. But the fact that she's doubling down on this and making comments like that to police, that's now going to paint quite a picture to the investigating officers that justice needs to be served here. And that, she has a moment where she's like, she could just say, listen, my partner, he's abusive. He made me do it. I feel awful. You've just read a victim impact statement to me and it's taken my breath away. She could let her guard slip and in that safe environment, put her cards out on the table. But the fact that, like I say, she's just doubled down and said, you should have thought about your children before doing what you did, speaks volumes about the headspace she was in that moment of, I'm perfectly innocent in this and she is guilty.
Definitely. So yeah, I agree completely, Rach. And yeah, let's let this sink in, shall we? After making an allegation against C1, after causing her arrest in the middle of the night in front of her child, after putting 3 people through a criminal investigation, Chloe's response to hearing about C1's suffering was just to say it was all her own fault. So I'm going to end this one here, Rach, but part 2 will be available next week because you'd think, oh, the story ends here. Trust me, people. The story does not end here, so we shall see you next week.
Wow. I feel like, we could probably do with not waiting another week to kind of explain the other side that we want to kind of cover here, but as well, definitely can't afford to keep our listeners for one episode for that long. So yeah, let's regroup and do episode 2.
Okay, goodbye, all.